Hey, it's Paul Blough, and we are going to be talking about risk management as relates to the HIPAA regulations today. HIPAA requires us to make sure that we identify all risks to access to patient information. In particular, we'll be talking about data-related risks and how we handle those. So part of the risk process is to do a risk assessment. And a risk assessment is simply where we'll go through and we look. Sometimes we'll use software tools to do that. Oftentimes it's just observation, and it's no different than any other type of audit that you might do. Once that process is complete, though, and risks have been identified, whether through conversation, observation, or through the process of the actual audit itself, then you need to develop a plan on how you're going to mitigate those risks, and that's called a risk management plan. You're always going to be developing this plan. It's not a static plan. It's not a plan that just goes away because you did it one time and now we're done with it for forever. Anytime a new risk is unveiled or discovered or observed, then you institute an adaptation to the risk management plan. So we identify our risk, say that we have a screen, a computer screen that is too close to observation from people that should not see the information that's on that. We've made that observation. There's a finding. Now, how are we going to manage that? Well, we would have a conversation and we'll weigh several different things. What is the actual impact of that particular risk? Do we have the financial resources to mitigate that risk? Is it practical from a workflow and from the business size standpoint? We look at all of those factors and then we develop a decision. One of those decisions possibly could be to say, hey, we're just going to take the risk. We're going to do our very best to contain it, minimize it, but we really can't do anything to fix it because of the size of our office. Now, you can't do that with everything, obviously, but sometimes that is going to be the correct answer. But in the case like the screen, to give you another example, is there are screen protectors that you can put on called a privacy filter that allows you to basically only see what's on the screen if you're looking straight at it. And that solves that particular issue very inexpensively for that particular type of situation. So there is oftentimes inexpensive ways that we can mitigate or manage those risks. That process is just going to always be ongoing. So anytime you change your IT environment, anytime you change your physical environment as well as it relates to the HIPAA regulations, you're going to have to ask yourself those risk management type questions. Okay, have I introduced a new risk? Have I changed an old risk? How is it modifying this? And then how am I going to manage or how am I going to mitigate or reduce that risk as a result of that? So it's important to do the risk analysis and the risk management even when we're improving things. If we're taking and we're going to improve the way we do backups, we still want to work through on paper, and that's probably the thing I really should emphasize, is that risk management can't be just done up in your head. It's got to be actually written down on paper so that you've got a record of this is what we did, this is the finding that we had, this is the risk issue that we identified, here's the impact of that particular risk, and now here's how we're mitigating and managing that particular risk. Do all of that in documentation, keep all of that documentation. In case you're involved in an audit, you can show that you've done your due diligence to make sure that you're doing your very best to comply with HIPAA regulations.